Hi everyone. The target of the video is to explain about Spring and Spring Boot frameworks while preparing interviews as a Java resource. This video targets the basic information what we need to remember while preparing interviews as a Java resource. While preparing interviews, the whole information is not possible to remember, right? So the basic things, and the key points we need to remember while preparing interviews. That information I am going to provide in this video. On the screen, you can see the overview of Spring Framework. It has different modules. Spring Framework, it has data access integration module, web module, AOP module, aspects module, instrumentation module, core container, and test modules. If you see, the core container, we'll talk about core container module. Right? The basic, the things of the basic, uh, the libraries, all the things available under core container. It's like a bean container, right? Core container means, if you talk about Spring framework, it's like all about creating the instance with the beans, right? So we have beans correlated, application context, uh, the language expression, all the things comes under core container. If you talk about data access module, JDBC, object relational mapping, GMS, transactions, all that comes under data access modules. Web module, right? It's like model view controller, the stuff, web servlet, portlet, starts, all the things comes under web module. We have AOP, aspect oriented programming, aspects, instrumentation, all the things. These all are different modules under Spring framework. Finally, we have test module. Like suppose if you want to do the j2ee testing, whatever we have written, uh, that kind we can test through test module. Yeah, this is all about overview of Spring framework. Spring IOC container and beans. IOC container means like inversion of control, also known as dependency injection. We have two packages in Spring framework. One is Spring framework.beans and another one is Spring framework.context. These two packages are the basis of Spring framework IOC container. The bean factory provides the configuration framework and basic functionality, and the application context adds more enterprise specific functionality. The backbone of the application that are beans managed by Spring IOC container. The beans are instantiated and assembled by IOC container. Dependency injection. Dependency injection is a process whereby objects define their dependencies. This process is fundamentally the inverse, hence the name inversion of control of the bean itself, controlling the instantiation or location of dependencies on its own by using direct construction of classes or the service locator pattern. In general, we use it to face one interview question. What are the design patterns involved in Spring Framework? On the screen, we can see there are four design patterns that are involved in Spring Framework. They are singleton pattern, factory method pattern, proxy pattern, and template pattern. In the previous slides, I just discussed about basics of Spring Framework. In this slide, we'll just talk about Spring Boot Framework, the features of Spring Boot Framework. Right, the Spring Boot Framework, it's the framework, it created standalone Spring applications. It has embedded Tomcat, j2ee, built-in servers. Okay, it provides opinionated starter dependencies to simplify your build configuration. It it is automatically configures Spring and third-party libraries whenever possible. It provides production-ready features such as metrics, health checks, and externalized configuration. If you work with Spring Boot framework, it's absolutely no code generation and no requirement for XML configuration. Suppose if you want to write any Spring Boot application, we need to write a class with the main method. That class need to be annotated with Spring Boot application. Spring Boot application annotation, it's a combination of configuration, enable auto configuration, and component scan. Right? We need to remember what is enable auto configuration, what is component scan, and what is configuration. Enable auto configuration. It enables Spring Boot auto configuration mechanism. Component scan. It enables scan on the packages where the application is located. Configuration. It allows to register extra beans in the context or import additional configuration classes. These all are comes under a single annotation like Spring Boot application that we need to annotate it with the class. On the screen, you can see how to package the application by using Java commands and Maven plugin. Like it's like a normal Java command, that would help to create the jar of the application. Okay. Uh, at the same time, suppose if you want to run that jar, just use the Java command Java. Okay. Through Maven plugin, just package by using the clean compile install and just Spring Boot run. By using the Spring Boot run command, we can run the packed jar. Okay. On the screen, you can see the Spring Web MVC architecture. There are three major things like one front controller, and view template. Front controller, it's dispatch servlet provided by the Spring framework. Controller, it's a controller developer used to write the controller. Okay. View templates that we are going to write. Right. There are three things. So the incoming request that will pass the framework get the incoming request and delegate that request to controller. Okay. Controller returns the model. That model is to pick by the view template. This is all about Spring Web MSC architecture. On the screen, we can see the flow of Spring Web MSC. Okay. All the incoming request is intercepted by the dispatcher servlet that works as a front controller. Okay. The dispatcher servlet gets an interf handler mapping from the XML file and forward that request to the controller. The controller returns an object of model and view. The dispatcher servlet checks the entity of view resolver in the XML file and invoke the specific view controller. Okay, that's all about the flow of Spring Web MVC. Suppose if you want to develop any Spring Web application, we need to write a class. In general, what we do, we'll declare all the configuration related things in XML file, right? So here, what I'm trying to explain, it's like Java based configuration. So the things we are not going to write anything in XML configuration file. Okay. So this is all Java based configuration only. We need to write a class. That class need to be extended with abstract annotation configuration dispatch servlet initializer. It has the three methods that we need to override. One like get root config classes. Uh, Another one is the get servlet config classes and get servlet mappings. Right? Get root config classes. That class that we need to return that database related configuration class. That class that we need to construct the database related configuration things in that class. Okay. Get servlet config classes. Right? Web the MVC related the things we need to develop in that class. That class we need to return here. Okay. Mappings. Finally, the get servlet mappings. Uh, The mappings what we want to declare, that mappings we need to write here. Okay, so like WebMSC configuration, like MVC means like model view controller, right? So we need to declare views, like what are the views we are going to define, that we need to declare. At the same time, the messages in the properties file, what are the messages we are going to declare for the application. Validators, what are the validators we are going to use in the application. That and all we need to declare in one class. I just name it that class as WebMSC config. That class need to be implemented with WebMSC configure. We need like for the views, right, in Spring Framework, we need to declare that resolver. Here I am using like internal resource view resolver. There, like we need to provide like view class, like what are the class that we are going to use on the JSPs to populate the data. Like we need to declare prefix and suffix, right? The, the folder structure as a prefix, that we need to declare that I have declared in this method. The extension of the view as a suffix, that I have declared in this method. Finally, I written that resolver here. Like message the resources like property files. Through properties files, we are going to provide the messages, right? That bundle I have declared in message source method. Validators, what are the validators we are going to use in the application? That validators I have declared in a get validated method. Okay, this is all about web MAC config class. Okay, see on the screen we can see like I have I have written one class named as cabinet config. So in this class, I just written the configuration of database related things. Okay, like I just created two bins, like the session factory and transaction manager. Uh, like see, like I have created local session factory bin. I have created hibernate transaction manager bin. Okay, so like just the what are the package that need to be scanned. I just written that package that need to be scanned. Configuration file, like the configuration location, I just dictate the configuration location that need to be that need to be uh, it to be read from that configuration file about the database configuration. That Another one is like transaction related things. I just created one bin, the like cabinet transaction manager. There I have declared that transaction related things. Okay. Previous slides we just discussed about Spring Web MAC framework. How can we implement that Spring Web MAC in a Spring framework? Okay. In this slide, like Spring Web MAC with Spring Boot framework. Suppose if you want to develop any web application by using Spring Boot framework, like we need to write a class. That class need to be annotated with Spring Boot application. That class needs to be extended with Spring Boot servlet initializer. Okay, there we need to override one method like configure method. Okay, that method returns Spring application builder. Okay, that is the argument that we need to pass through configure method. Okay, there like what are the classes, the what are the classes we have, the controllers, that what are the controller classes we have. That class, that class we need to declare in this method. Okay, like how do you write Spring Boot application? In the same way we need to write the method in that class. Okay, this is how uh, we use it to implement the Spring Web MVC with the Spring Boot framework. Okay. Right, on the screen we can see the controller class. Okay, suppose if you want to write any controller class, that we need to annotate it with the controller. Okay. uh, we like we suppose we have post and the get mappings, right? Suppose if you want to write any method for post submission, we need to write we need to annotate request mapping. There we need to pass that method, whether it is get or post. There we need to declare the mapping. So by using that mapping, uh, we'll call the application that respective view by using this mapping. Okay, on the screen we can see the details. Okay. The Spring framework has provided the JPA repository interface that would handle the database operations like CRUD. So on the screen we can see I just written customer repository interface. It has extended JPA repository. So but through this customer repository interface, we'll implement the CRD operations in this application. Okay. On the screen, we can see the CRD operations. Okay, with the help of JPA repository that we have extended with the customer repository. Okay, I just created a customer repository bin. With the help of that bin, I just note that respective CRD operations. Okay. On the screen, we can see the how do you configure this libraries artifacts for this application in a POM file. Okay, I just provided the basic information of the POM configuration. We just go through the slide and try to remember the things. Okay, so it would help to uh, answer the questions which we are going to face by the interviewers. Okay. On the screen, I just provided the basic information of CRD repository and JPA repository. So you can go through the slide and remember the things about CRD repository and JPA repository. We can see the artifacts, the dependencies that we need to provide in form file. Below, it's like in application.properties file, we need to provide that prefix and suffix. What are the port we are going to use uh, for running the application? That information we need to provide in application.properties file. In this slide, I just given configuration information that we need to provide in application.properties file. It's like suppose if you want to work with any database, what are the information displayed on the screen, that configuration we need to include in application data properties file. On the screen, I just provided global exception handling in Spring Boot application. Suppose if you want to write any global exception, we need to write a class. That class need to be annotated with the controller advice. Okay. In that class, we can write any method annotated with exception handler. Okay. uh, right, the suppose if you want to throw any exception with some information, that information you need to provide in that operation and return that respective object. Okay. uh, this method, by using this class, we can use wherever we want to throw. Okay, throw like in a controller or service layer or data layer, we can use this exception class. Okay. uh, I think this is enough to face any interview uh, for the Spring Boot and Spring Boot application. Yeah, thanks for watching this video.